Welcome to the Best Florida Family Law Podcast. My name is Attorney Jonathan Jacobs. I have the pleasure of talking to you today about where the rubber hits the road. Let's talk about postnuptial agreements. It is quite frequent that when people are having trouble in their marriage, they seek out a postnup. They want to find out if I'm going to get a divorce in 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 years, maybe never. What are my assets and liabilities going to be? Am I going to have the opportunity to have alimony? To define the amount of alimony I'm going to have to pay from the other perspective? Who's getting the house? How are we going to separate our bank accounts? Where's my financial security or lack thereof going to come from? How is this all going to be worked out? What are we going to do? I want clarity. I want security. I do not want to have a messy divorce in which everything is litigated ad infinitum for an extended period of time. Much like you may have heard in our prior podcast, a postnuptial agreement is very similar, though not in law necessarily, in statutory law. It's very similar in concept to a prenuptial agreement. A postnup is all about planning. You want to make sure that everything is defined according to Florida law, of course, in your own way, on your own terms. This is where you have self-determination. This is where you and your spouse can make things the way that you believe they should be, potentially and likely without court intervention, without a random stranger defining your finances for you, defining your lives for you. And perhaps one of the best parts about a postnuptial agreement is the requirements are not as severe as those statutorily prescribed by a prenup. Now, why is that? Because when you are about to marry somebody, it is presumed as an arm's length transaction. You sort of stick out your arm, you put out your arm, and you imagine your spouse 3, 4, 5 feet away from you. I guess it depends on how tall you are and how long your reach is. They're that far away from you, and you are that far away from them. You do not really know each other's finances until you disclose them. But if you've been married for any length of time, the assumption is, rightly or wrongly, that you both know each other's finances. You open the mail, you look at each other's bank statements, you share a mortgage statement, you have a bank account or 2 or 3 and credit card accounts together. You might even have retirement accounts together if allowable. So this is how it goes. Postnuptial agreement is more about you have the knowledge of your finances and your debts, your assets, all of your properties, your bank accounts, your 401ks, your retirements, your pensions, what have you. You know what you have, and now you can structure it accordingly. You essentially have all the information you need, and therefore the requirements are not as severe as though you know nothing. With a prenup, a postnup, maybe you know everything. This is why it is all about planning. You can plan to structure. Okay, you keep $50,000 of this 401k account. I will keep $49,000 of it. I will take $10,000 from my Roth IRA. You keep your $11,000 Roth IRA account. I'm going to take 51% of the sale of our house. You keep 49%. You have $30,000 of credit card debt. I have $26,000 of credit card debt. Let's equalize that. Let's each pay $28,000 and prescribe it in writing. Let's swear to it. Let's make it happen. Let's avoid the hustle and bustle of the courtroom. Let's avoid a messy divorce. Let's do this on our own terms. Now, of course, nothing is ever quite that clear-cut. And at the time that you're asking for a postnuptial agreement, is it possible that your marriage is irretrievably broken already? Maybe. And that may cause an agreement to be less easily reached. It may cause you some concern. It might mean that you're not as willing to enter into a full and fair and equitable agreement. But a postnuptial agreement is what you make of it. This is your choice and your spouse's choice, not the court's choice, not counsel's choice. This is your way, on your terms. I almost made a Burger King, McDonald's fast food reference there, not intentionally. But the concept of self-determination is so important here. So if you have any doubt that your marriage will continue succeeding, and you want to have a postnuptial to define everybody's rights, responsibilities, alimony amounts, alimony terms, housing statuses, who will live where, when, and why, then you absolutely can enter into a postnup. And it may be the very best idea, especially if you have any doubts about the status of your marriage. This has been podcast 3 of the Best Florida Family Law Podcast. This is Attorney Jonathan Jacobs. Thank you for letting me talk to you today a little bit about postnuptial agreements. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. See you next time.